Welcome back to the Aftermatch with Kirsten Beeve. Come for the rugby, stay for the Aftermatch part 2. You mentioned a couple of Springbok players. Willemson has had massive raps from Wellington and so well deserved. I mean, Damien Diolende has been in there. He's a double World Cup winner, and then Willemson just comes in and you go, where has this guy been, Beeve?
Well, of course he was at the World Cup as their fullback, and I guess it certainly raised some eyebrows, that selection, because obviously Delande, Creel, the old firm, and even Lacuna Arm, I think he's still in the squad, or still certainly around the squad, as a magnificent footballer, someone I certainly respect and thinks great at what he does. But Willemson in at that 12 jersey, Moody's obviously the future at 13, or just somewhere in the Springbok backline, because he's been talked about for a while, but it was Willemson who struck me early watching the game, Kirst. He's a big unit. He's got a little bit bigger since when he first came onto the scene as the Stormers 10, when I think I was still trying to hang in there. But he's a lot bigger now. He's very dynamic on his feet. That was something early on when he was playing at 12 before the backline reshuffle, was how dynamic he was on his feet. And he always hunted around the ball in the big moments. We saw him score the try that, I think in the end, probably that far out, we weren't to know, but that was the one that broke the back and sort of put it out to 14. And in the end, the All Blacks couldn't come back from. But I thought he was outstanding, Kirst. He really was. And just his initial impact, but it was that first 20 or so minutes where they didn't do so much as far as the scoreboard goes, but just the way that the box came out. And when they come out and with that physical intent, there's a difference between when they're on and just when they're out there. And just that first foray into the All Blacks 22, when you saw Peter Steff and Marks and Kolisi carrying, geez, you just thought, these guys are a different beast tonight. And I mean, in fairness, the All Blacks held their own there for 50 or 60 minutes. But maybe that onslaught took its toll. But when you see the Ox running around and offloading and being dynamic as well, they are a brutal, powerful beast. But no, Willemson certainly was outstanding. I thought big thing to Manili Bok too.
Yes, considering he wasn't supposed to play almost an entire match.
Well, he wasn't supposed to play an entire match, but also where does he sit? Like, he's
the three first fives that they have on offer now, Beeve. Talk us through the three of them.
Well, the guy that's not playing, or wasn't included in this team, is Mr. Reliable, the guy that wins World Cups for them, and Pollard. And then you've got Sasha, who's obviously the future, and I think we're all a little bit disappointed when he got injured, because we were like, oh, it's a shame, because we haven't actually seen him in his entirety here in New Zealand, and he's obviously a very, very special footballer. And then you got Manili Bok, who a couple of years ago was the guy that they wanted to entrust with, but then we saw things like him getting dragged before half-time in some of the big knockout games at the World Cup. So you often wondered, where was he the guy that would always be the disposable one? Would he be the one that Rusty would sort of, not today for Manili Bok? But he comes on, with 60 to go, and in the end, he is a massive reason that the Boks got the job done. Yes, there was a few kicks. He wasn't alone on the night, but there was a few kicks where he was feeling his way out. I guess just chucking a few up in hope and seeing where they ended up, because it was at its swirly best for Cape Town. I think Sasha, before he got injured, learnt the hard way as he went into one corner for a penalty kick to touch and ended up almost at the goalpost. Look, I thought Manili Bok was brilliant. I thought a few of the backs, really. We mentioned Hooker in the previous episode. Cheslin Colby was Cheslin Colby. And, that you just see the ability that they've got if they do want to start to play a bit more of a dynamic, free-flowing game, then they have got the arsenal there to go, Kirst.
What about their halfbacks? I mean, one ended up on the wing off the bench, and Kobus ended up playing pretty much an entire game and got under the skin of a few All Blacks across that 80 minutes.
Yeah, well, it's half the job of a halfback. But mentioning it was, I'm trying to think who was it that ended up on the wing? Did you say, Kirst?
Grant Williams.
It
And
was
then that's with
Williams.
Buff in the stands, just like their
Yes.
tens. They've got options.
Well, I think Williams has obviously seen McDermott do it for the Wallabies, but he thought I might just be able to do it a bit better. Some of those times that Williams got the ball down that left-hand side, he looked like Cheslin Colby. He was ridiculous down there, and actually set up the final try to Vesthaven. But what they were so good at, Kirst, is people going, "Oh, how did they dismantle the All Blacks like they did?" I think it was a culmination of the fact that they just bashed the front door down for the first 50 or 60 minutes, got a bit of scoreboard pressure, then they were able to play with a little bit more freedom. And when you think about the freedom that I'm talking about, around that 50-metre mark, instead of looking for, possibly kicking or that, they started to look for mismatches. And we've talked about them until the cows come home, but Willemse looked up, saw Tamaiti Williams backpedaling, and thought, right, I'm going to have a crack at this. Has him on the outside, beats him for pace, picks up Williams, and they go away and they score. And then things like Peter Steph du Toit hanging out there on an edge because they had bashed them up so much through the middle, condensed the All Blacks defensive line. Ruben Love gets pulled into the edge of the defensive line, cross kick out, perfectly positioned by Lebok, and he's not a bad target to go and find. The big 7-foot tall monster that is Peter Steph du Toit, and they score another one. And they were just able to pick them off with such precision. And, there was no one magic formula where they did it. Yeah, they got a bit of pay out of line out steals. Their defensive line out in the second half really came to fruition. And yes, the scrum started to get a bit of dominance. But then at the same time, there was some scrum penalties back and forth the other way. So I think it was just a combination of getting in the right part of the field, but also their ability to pick the All Blacks off. And I know Fabian Holland made it easier for Big Snaven, but again, it was continued pressure. It was forcing the All Blacks into an uncomfortable position where they felt like they needed to act as individuals or force the All Blacks to act as individuals, running great hard lines. And you could see up in the coach's box the joy that it brought to Russie and the boys, and even Brownie.
He was in for the cuddles.
He was in for the cuddles too, and like that sort of stuff would have been talked about during the week. If we do this, if we can get them here, then this opportunity over here is going to be on. And if we go deep in the phases, then we're going to catch some of their big boys defending on the edges, which is going to free up our guys to have a crack at. So all that's planned for and prepared for, Kirst, but it's then being able to see it and execute it under the pressure. And that's where I think people like Lebok, have to have a massive pat on the back, and then you've just got your usuals up front, which, when you think of, obviously, Sia Kolisi had a great 50 or 60 minutes, Kirst.
There was one moment, Beav, with Sia Kolisi. I reckon that's the best performance we've seen from him in a very, very long time. But in terms of a leader, did you see him when he left the field? He left the field pumping his players up. He hit every single one of his forward pack on the chest at line-out time as they were about to go out for a defensive line-out before he walked off, and he stood on the side of the field. Guy, that's Sia Kolisi.
Yeah, and when you look at them and if you see them as a team, he's clearly the leader and I guess the face of it, and almost, I think it's too much of an exaggeration to say the face of South Africa, not just rugby. But he also seems to be a guy that's on everyone's level. And, you can see that from the joking around, maybe when it's away from actual the 80 minutes and what have you. So seems like an incredible leader. I think, when you see conversations going down with the ref, has a few refs, I think, where he wants them as well. And I guess it's just through standing in the game and humility and success, like the handling of the referees is so massive, and he seems to do that exceptionally well.
When you look across the board at the Boks, like, what makes him such a scary prospect, Beav, aside from the fact that they have just won back-to-back Rugby World Cups and could not inconceivably go and do it again in 2.5 years' time in Australia. What makes them such a scary prospect? Their depth in every position, the way that they can just transform from how they played last week to how they played this week.
Yeah. Well, for me, obviously their depth's great, but there's a lot of the top nations with depth in some key positions, and I know our depth is getting really tested at the moment. Look, you think about our two top hookers still on the sideline. You think about our top two halfbacks on the sideline. Our third halfback gets injured, so we've got some depth of our own that's getting forced to be created through I guess necessity at the moment. But no, for me, the scary if you're looking for a scary factor around the box and what's to come, it's their ability to match the brilliance of that backline with the absolute brutality and power of those forwards. And the evolution of some of those forwards, and by that I mean the ball playing of those forwards to complement those wonderful backs that they've got at their disposal. Because when you think about it, if you're defending up and you're looking up and you're seeing an Eben, a Marks, Peter Steff, a Kolisi, you're looking up and you go, okay, I'm all in here. If I'm going to stop these guys, I have to be all in physically. And so, Yep, fair enough. So you're coming up. But now these guys, and it's certainly been in the last few years, have the ability to pull a ball out the back and pass to someone or tip on to someone. I mean, I know I mentioned it in the previous podcast there, Kirst, but for goodness sakes, who would have ever thought the big ox, who's just known as this phenomenal scrummager, is running around and doing offloads and little pop passes?
Where has this come from?
Well,
is this Tony Brown going in there and making them realise that they can play with skill as well? Where has it come from, B? Why have they not used it before with these big guys?
Well, I think it's been. I don't think. I don't. Well, I mean, obviously, we'd like to take some credit if it is Tony Brown's great work, but I think it's a combination of the fact that they had very much a simplistic route that they wanted to play, which was get forward domination. And not just domination, smash the opposition to smithereens, and then they'll get territory, and then the forwards will go again, and then they'll get points. Now, we didn't know if they could actually do that back then as far as the passing and the finesse. They could well have been, but now they're actually allowed to. Now they are broadening their horizons, because I think, coupled with the fact that maybe Brownie's slowly chipping away at Russie and say we can play with a little bit more creativity, a little bit more width to our game, but also they have got some phenomenal backs to work with now. And they've always had good backs, but I think you're talking about a skill and a speed level that it would be ridiculous to ignore. Like, Ches and Colby's been standing out there for a long time, and they've now just realised, right, he's got to be involved. Before that, you had guys like Mapimpi, Lukunyam, and the likes for that 19 World Cup. And I remember watching that 2019 World Cup, and when the shackles started to break in that final, it was Lukunyam, Mapimpi that were doing the damage. And that would have been a little trigger to them thinking, geez, we could actually play for a little bit here, but we've got some pretty outstanding individuals out there. And then the evolution, but World Cups, gone back, won another World Cup, essentially the same through that big forward brutality and playing in the right parts of the field. But certainly, if you're worried about 2027, Kirst, or if you're thinking of a Springbok team in 2027, it could be very similar to the back division we saw out there in Wellington, and you couple that with the fact that there's not going to be too many Wellington weather situations in Brisbane, in Sydney, in October. You're going to get great weather, great tracks, dry balls. It's going to be a pretty big beast that's going to roll into Aussie in a couple of years' time.
Well, let's go across to Australia then. The thing is, because the world's basically entered in New Zealand in the last 2 days, no one's been talking about this competition,
Yes.
B. Everyone has 2 wins, 2 losses after 4 rounds of the Rugby Championship. Look, we'll say it again, and we've said it so many times before, but how good is the Rugby Championship this year? You have no idea what's going to happen on any given day. And last week you said to us that although you didn't want it to happen, the results from round 3 could have well and truly flipped in round 4. And we saw that again here in New Zealand and then across the way in Australia as well.
Yeah, Argentina were great for their victory, but geez, they had to hold on. Australia came home, very wet sail, as they say. It was a magnificent day there, afternoon footy at the newly developed SCFS Stadium, packed to the rafters. But I still reckon Aussie let that slip. They
4 tries to 1, Beef.
They had all the momentum in that second half with about 10 to go. It was interesting. They'd got back to about 9 points after being about 20 points down. They got 2 quick tries, and then they got the kickoff to them. And then instead of going, they just split them through the middle because the Argentinians were down a man, and they'd split them through the middle with Jorgensen and Sualeti. I thought you go there again, but then they just got into a little bit of a conservative, we're back in the game, we'll just exit traditionally, couple of forward carries either side of the ruck, and then we'll box kick. Where I thought the time was, get one decent momentum carry, you get out into that midfield again, which still had a lot of Argentinian tired forwards out there because, geez, it looked hot. And you again look for Jorgensen, Sualeti going through the middle, Callaway. I just thought they missed a trick there. I thought they took the foot off the accelerator when they didn't need to. They just need to keep going full ball, and in the end, they come up a couple short. But generally speaking, you did right. Now, where this competition goes from now, Kirst, I said that 4 wins will win it for you. I reckon no one's going to get to 4 wins. I reckon it could be a 3-win. It could be a 3-winner.
Who's the most likely to win this now, Beef?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
No one can predict how this is going to play out.
Argentina will get one of the Bok games because both those games
are split.
Oh, they're split.
One's in London, and one's in South Africa.
Ooh, so none in Buenos Aires.
None in BA.
I still think they get one. I give them a massive chance to get one.
Do the Wallabies get any?
No. Said as a Kiwi.
Okay, from a rugby analyst, do the Wallabies get one?
Oh, if they're a chance. They are a chance.
They have to be a chance. I said it last week, Beef, but that team is seriously like this. They are learning every game. Don't get me wrong. They're far from perfect, but they are the team going like this in World Rugby at the moment. If Joseph Suaalii isn't up for World Rugby Player of the Year in a month or two's time, I'll eat my hat, Beef.
Well, I'll tell you what, his captain can't be far behind him, Kirst.
What about all three captains in the Rugby Championship right now? Pretty hot, aren't they, in form?
Oh, there's so much that Harry Wilson has got an engine on him, and he doesn't stop. He's got a little left foot grubber that he loves to bring out too. He's some player, and he's just leading Australia unbelievably well at the moment. So, no, he's one of Australia's finest at the moment, Kirst.
Did you see on social media the exchange between the Pumas captain and the Wallabies captain?
No, tell me.
Well, I can't repeat it because there's a C word in there.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't pleasantries. They weren't handing each other good wine at the end of the game.
No. Wilson was trying to talk to the referee, and Montoya said, "Shh up, see."
Is that right? I didn't think the Argentinians had that in their vocab, but I thought there was.
I didn't realise their English translated to that, but clearly it does.
I thought that was a very, Australasia word to use in the heat of battle. But good to see. It's spreading to South America.
Hey, but how good has Santiago Carreras been, considering that young guy that was playing at 10 for the Pumas against the All Blacks? Like you said, that he could lead Argentina to the promised land.
Yes.
Carreras has been wonderful.
Well, Carreras, of course, got them home in the second game against the All Blacks, and he was good again. Deliberate knockdown. Jeez, that I guess shows the magic of the Cheslin Colby intercept, because there wasn't much in that, but straight away everyone knew 10 minutes gone. It was a given, and in the end, geez, it was close to being the most important 10 minutes of Australians' because they almost got home.
What do you think was more impressive, Beef? The 38 unanswered points that the Wallabies put on the box at Ellis Park, or the 36 unanswered points that the Boks put on the All Blacks in Wellington? What was the more impressive 40-minute performance?
Well, again, as a New Zealander, I'm going to save Australians because it didn't happen against us. But no, it's the Australian one probably is more
It was
believable.
unexpected,
But more believable. You've got altitude, you've got a dry day, you've got the Australians going to the width often and sort of just running over top of the Springboks. But the South African one, I found that unexpected, Kiss. If you told me that was going to be the scoreline at half time, I'd have said, not a chance. I think we're going to probably win. And then, even with 20 to go, you didn't see that unfolding. No way. Unbelievable. Both unbelievable. But, hey.
Both are unbelievable.
But is that where rugby is there, or with the momentum swings and where it goes? You know, like, I know one of them was aided by, I think there's some yellow cards in Joburg. There wasn't any in Wellington. But once teams get on the front foot, you know, and it's very tough to peg that momentum back.
For you, sitting there watching this or listening, what was the most unbelievable half for you? The Wallabies half at Ellis Park or the Boks half in Wellington? Comment below, and don't forget, send in any of your comments, your questions, your thoughts, and we're going to do another entire podcast and we'll answer everything. Beef, are you going to be open to all the questions and comments that come through?
Yeah, open book, unless they want to bring up after matches from 20 years ago that may or may not have included myself or what have you. So we'll see
Yourself, Hamilton, and a beer suit.
We'll see what
Never
comes
heard
up.
of it.
We'll see what comes up.
We'll see what comes up, and he will be an open book. Thank you for always tuning in. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you. The numbers have been enormous, so clearly you're enjoying what we'll do, and we'll keep dropping more and more episodes for you as well. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you later in the week.